Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, it is time for Wrestling Chat with Friends. Meow,
Meow,
meow, meow, meow,
meow,
meow,
meow, meow.
meow,
That's
meow,
from that's from
meow,
Megan.
meow. I see that Elliot the Collector is here. We are going to chop it up and talk about a lot of things. I know there's a lot of AEW things to talk about. I am very, very excited about it. Before we go too further, we got to shout out our favorite heel and heels who is in the library right now at UNC. She has started her grad school program. She is studying. We are very excited about that for Megan. So shout out to Megan, our favorite heel and
We love
heel.
you, Megan. We miss you. Do your thing, girl.
And we will hopefully have her back soon.
Yep.
Soon. But as I mentioned before, and I'll mention now, we're joined by Elliot the Collector. Elliot, how you feeling today?
I'm here. I'm present. I'm accounted for. I'm accountable. It's been a minute. We were gone last week on hiatus, but good to see you, Cheats. Collector's Choice this week. So for anyone who doesn't know, most of the AEW figures are purchased through ringsidecollectibles.com. And when they make a run of figures, they usually each set has 5 or 6 figures. One of the figures, they'll make 3,000 to 5,000 exclusive chase variants of that figure. And they'll randomly put them out in when they send out orders. And it's really cool if you get a rare chase variant. The figure's a little bit different tops, bottoms, maybe a different face articulation. So I've now bought probably close to 60, 65 figures. Haven't gotten to chase until mail call came last week. The Ricky Starks, one of 3,000.
How exciting.
Yeah, man. I almost now need to get another one so I can get the general figure, because that's awesome too. This one's especially cool. Ricky Starks, up and comer, my first chase variant. I'm excited, but we have a lot to talk about. Cheats, great to see you. Let's get it on.
Great to see you, and that is awesome. I actually have a Ricky Starks coming. I ordered it probably 2 weeks ago. It has not come yet. I ordered a Jade Cargill, a Ricky Starks, and I can't remember the Thunder Rosa. I ordered a Thunder Rosa.
You're probably not going to get a chase, but how cool would that be if you did? I hope you did.
No, I don't know. It's I will tell you my experience with that is I got a. Do you know about the Tops one? I think it's Tops 100. Might have been Tops Project 80, but now it's Tops 100, where they paired baseball players with all of these artists. It was street artists, hip hop MCs. I know Action Bronson had a series, so I got one of the Satchel Pages that was one of the special ones that had.
I've seen that of yours that you showed it before.
Yeah, so I was pretty pumped about that. But that's the closest thing, and I don't think it's one of 3,000. So
Satchel Page, Ricky Starks, two iconic entertainers,
2 icons. So let's ask. I'm going to start with you, and I want to ask Elliot, what are you popping for this week in wrestling?
There's a lot of cool wrestling over the last few weeks. One thing I definitely am popping for is that the landscape of the wrestling business, I think, is on an upswing. Changes that have been made in WWE have.
You were skeptical. I don't want to cut you off, but we were talking in our 2 weeks ago. We were talking about the onset of Triple H, and the read I got from you was very skeptical. I think the quote was "wait and see."
It continues to be skeptical because it's still a short window. But early on, after that very first Raw, a lot of people started picking up on, oh, did you see this? This is a Triple H. I didn't get that sense. I did more this past Monday.
Okay.
And we'll get in, and we'll definitely probably get into it. But yeah, the overall landscape. There's a lot of people on Twitter who have pitted AEW versus WWE. That is not me. I want both companies.
Disgusting.
I want both companies to be ethical first and foremost, and that's some of my issues. But I want them both to succeed because professional wrestling, when put on television and live in arenas, can be great when it's done right. You need a mix of talent, you need a mix of creative storytelling, and when both companies are doing that, it's the best scenario. When there are 2 companies doing that, that's the best scenario. WWE, quite frankly, hasn't been doing that to my level of satisfaction for quite a while. So this change, I'm still waiting to see, but I'm optimistic cautiously. That's not really though that popped me. I just want to get that out of the way. I actually popped myself this week because
No.
I fantasy booked myself into a work shoot where I popped myself thinking the events that took place last night, and we'll definitely get into that
Yep.
tonight on the show, made me feel that the return of one of the most dynamic wrestlers we've seen in years, especially when it comes to the mic, who has been mysteriously absent all summer, I think is going to be coming back soon. And the notion of having MJF back on AEW TV, that when I thought about it, I said, oh, this is what they're doing. I popped myself. So there you go. I popped myself this week about MJF making his return, hopefully sooner than later. Cheats, what are you popping for?
Well, so let's dig deep. There's two things that you said that we have time. It's just the two of us. We
Sure.
have time.
Let's
I
go.
want to dig deeper in them.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you, because it's along the same lines of what you're talking about. Let's go. Let's take them in order. The first thing is, what are you seeing now in a show like Raw that you didn't see 2 weeks ago? That is starting, and you are very clear. You are not confident yet. You are starting to build momentum towards confidence
Sure.
in what Triple H is doing. What did you see, like, for example, in Monday's episode of Raw that you didn't see in the past and is starting to say, oh, this is Triple H making an imprint on the show that gives you confidence?
Being in the know and wanting to be in the know, I absorb a lot of information from online stuff, and you have to really cut through, pour tons of grains of salt on everything. But I'm a reasonable enough human being that I can focus on what I care about and know that what I read may be suspect, but this is professional wrestling. Wrestling is supposed to blur lines. So two things that I saw on Raw is, one, pretty obvious because this was talked about online. The word wrestling, the word wrestler returned to Monday Night Raw. They were superstars were using it in wrestlers, not superstars, were using it in the ring. That's obviously a Triple H change. That's something that McMahon had obviously made forbidden. We all know about that. So the fact that that was back, that's Triple H loosening some reins in some sort of way. Cool. That was awesome. Professional wrestling, one of my favorite things about professional wrestling over the years, when done well, and it's not always done well, in fact, sometimes it's rarely done well, I am a fan of well done invasion angles.
Okay.
Whether it be a superstar or a faction, or 20 years ago when WCW came in, I would have booked that differently. But I like invasion angles when they're mysterious, when they got a bit of edge to them. And it's really done best when even the commentators, because they're the ones on TV who are just like a sporting event. Your your play-by-play, they're painting pictures for people, even though might see it on the screen. It helps enhance the entire story of an event. When they're confused, when they don't know what's going on, I think when that's done well. So this building angle with Dexter Lumis,
Right.
coming back, when they come to the crowd, guys in black hooded sweatshirts, Michael Cole or who the Monday Night guys not knowing what's going on. When that's done well, it works. And this has the chance to work. When Karrion Kross came back, last week, those kind of mini invasion angles. I hope we're going to see one in some form with Bray Wyatt at some point. I'm still hoping that.
I think we will.
I think we will. But I like when, I'm not a young fan anymore. I'm an old grizzled vet. I like what I like. So there is definitely much more in AEW nowadays that I like because Vince has had reins and it hasn't been marketed for me, nor has really hooked me. Some things like that will start to hook me again. Kevin Owens becoming a badass again will start to get me more interested when guys are able to do this sort of thing. So yeah, those are some of the changes I've seen just in the last week that is helping me gain. They don't need, I'm confident because I want it to work and I have a lot of faith in Triple H. There's just a whole dynamic with that company that I don't know if he still be able to do everything he wants to do? That's the wait and see part.
So I'm with you on the change of feel to the programs now that we know that Triple H is in charge. We know Shawn Michaels is back and elevated. We the love that they're giving to members of the Black and Gold brand that were basically on exile or on skates. And now you're, like you said, you're starting to see Karrion Kross came back, and you saw Dakota Kai and Io Sky come back with Bailey, but they're back and they're going to be a faction now. And you saw the extreme, I think, really positive elevation of Tommaso Ciampa, who we know has been a workhorse for the Golden Black brand. Now he's actually getting some real like main roster love. A guy like Ricochet, you're starting to see a lot more from people that we know in the Black and Gold brand were beloved and really kind of making their way. I also think this change has allowed Triple H to get to people that he hadn't got to before or had relationships in the past and say, "Hey man, the old man's out."
I hope so.
That was what was happening. That's the old man. That's his people. You know, me and Sean and whoever are back here. Come on back and let's make this thing happen. You know,
that's what he should be doing. I
think it's exactly what he's doing. I think it's exactly what he's doing. And I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see guys like Bray Wyatt. I think you're going to see.
What evidence do we know that he's doing that? We think he is, but do we really know?
No,
he brought back Hit Row. He brought back.
I think that's what I was going to get to that, but I think the Dakota, the EO. I think guys like Johnny Gargano. I think guys like Bray Wyatt, and I think, like I said, you jump started my lead here. But if anybody was on the WCWF pod Twitter feed or even my Twitter feed when Hit Row came back on SmackDown, I lost my complete mind. And I didn't know how to feel because Swerve is now signed. He's a tag team champions in AEW, Swerve in Their Glory. I think he's locked up for a while. Mm-hmm. And to see the other three, Top Dollar and everybody come be like all of them come back on SmackDown without him. I think I tweeted it felt like the Hurt Business coming back without Bobby and MVP. Like, I don't know how to feel about this. I'm happy for those guys.
Sure.
It's not going to be the same. It's not. Hit Row needed Swerve. Swerve needed Hit Row. And I think you're going to see them both not be as great as they could be without each other. But there's no way they can come back together now. But I'm happy for Hit Row. And I like it hurt my heart.
What Hit Row, I was not watching too much NXT when Hit Row was coming up.
So good.
I was aware of them. I saw their like one and only appearance on Raw or SmackDown, whatever they did. Is Swerve or AJ Francis the real commodity?
Swerve was the leader of Hit Row. Everything revolved around Swerve. Swerve was the North American champion.
Yeah, I knew that. So is AJ Francis? Is AJ Francis, because he did that show on A&E?
Yeah, Top Dollar is going to be the guy now. He's going to be the leader of Hit Row now. Okay. But it was when Swerve was running Hit Row. Again, it reminded you of the Hurt Business with Bobby, MVP, Cedric, and Sheldon. Like, they were great.
Mm-hmm.
Hit Row it's hard to say this because Hit Row, wrestling-wise, was not as good as Street Profits as an entity. Like, Swerve was a really good wrestler, and then it was kind of the rest of Hit Row. Without Swerve, they're definitely not the quality of wrestlers that should be, like, top stars on the main roster. But personality-wise, they were, I think, more exciting coming into WWE's main roster than even the Street Profits were. And they were pretty exciting.
I'm glad they're back.
But I think our point is, I think this is a Triple H thing. Get Hit Row back. Get Karrion Kross back. Get Io Sky back. Get Dakota back. Again, I think you're going to see Johnny Gargano. I think you're going to see Bray Wyatt. I think it's elevate Tommaso, elevate Ricochet. I think you're going to see some of that level of wrestling. Maybe not in the Roman Reigns picture, but definitely in the U.S. title belt picture, the Intercontinental title picture. Like, you're going to see, they might even bring back a cruiser division. Who knows? I think that's what Triple H wants to see.
Well, fall is traditionally a new TV season. Their only competitors, if even though probably WWE doesn't consider them competitors, are getting their roster healthy and back for the fall season. If Triple H is going to do that, I expect to see it in the next month to 5 weeks.
And that's a good point, because I do think Triple H, I think after his experience the first time, I don't think Triple H will directly book in a way that, like, WWE, WCW back in the day. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think it's going to be that bad. I think they've learned lessons from that. However, Triple H went head-to-head with AEW with his NXT brand and got trounced. As a matter of fact, got fired and got relegated.
Mm-hmm.
I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I think still Triple H looks at this as an opportunity for redemption with all the tools. Now that I've got all the tools, let me see how much, not necessarily direct booking, but how can I get the wrestling world talking about us as opposed to talking about the other brand? I don't know. I don't know if they can do that.
There's some talent they could bring back, prontissimo, that could get the people talking about that.
And we didn't talk about this. I think this is what you're alluding to. But yeah, I think Sasha and Naomi are coming back.
Sasha and Bray Wyatt were really the two I was thinking of. But yes, Sasha, Naomi, and Bray Wyatt are the two biggest names that could be. Johnny Gargano wouldn't move the needle in a big picture in the wrestling world.
I think that's a building block. I watched something the other day where I didn't realize how much Johnny Gargano was a part of the Black and Gold brand, the NXT Black and Gold brand.
Yeah, him and Ciampa.
But him and Ciampa were, like, literally, I think that's all stat where he didn't miss any, like, in your houses ever. You know what I mean? It was like this whole thing.
And I think we'll get into it more, but I think one of the strongest sword or strongest knife in his arsenal that Triple H can use is when he does bring back someone like a Sasha Banks, or even if he wants to go talk about it, he can go on the Today Show and talk about it. He can go on any of NBC's properties, which are a lot bigger than any Turner properties. So he has that platform to turn that spotlight on himself. He doesn't need anyone else to do it.
And I think the key to you is, in which we're probably starting to see, is make better shows. Absolutely. If you make better shows, you're gonna, like, I think what I was reminded of at SummerSlam, and I talked about this, and again, I know most people weren't sold as early as I was sold, but when the WWE does things well, when they make a great pay-per-view in a big arena and they do it the right way and they have the right main event, there is a leaps and bounds level of separation from anyone else that we watch doing wrestling. Doesn't mean we don't like New Japan better or AEW better, like the style of wrestling. Yeah. It's just that spectacle. When they do that spectacle, now the thing that I think Triple H has the opportunity to do in this time period is that everybody's looking for something different. Everybody's looking to see what is different from the Vince days to now. And if he capitalizes on just people like you and I looking for different things, different people, different ways of doing things, different verbiage, if he capitalizes on that, I think that's what keeps the momentum going.
It does. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say at this moment right here, as important for me is I want to know 6 months, a year from now that the employee culture has changed too. It's actually as important to me, because when you were saying that about the Vince time and when they do it right, it can be amazing. There's a guy who has been this a scourge of our world for the last several years, who's a lot like Vince, who can make a lot,
the Vince is number 2 guy.
who can make a lot of things shiny and impressive and looking great that attract people. But if behind the curtain it's a swamp, I don't need to be a part of it. Same goes for WWE. Our co-host Megan is down that road, but that's important to me also. So it can.
Who's the guy? I know you're talking about. It's the like it was Vince's right hand guy, right? That was there the whole time with Vince. What's his name? Everybody talks about him.
Yeah, Dunn.
Yeah. Is he out yet, or is he still there?
He is still Kevin Dunn. He's still there. John Laurinaitis has been quiet released, which is big news and important. And
the word on the street was Dunn was done. That was the word on everybody was like, "There's no way that guy stays."
Well, that was the sort of internet wrestling community's expectation, and they did that with Laurinaitis. Triple H actually said he's in a producer role working with this. The belief is that Stephanie doesn't get along with him, and within in a year he won't be around. It's going to take he is actually too ingrained to be part of the house cleaning if there is any being done, but his days are definitely numbered because he has a very bad reputation, and he's the last one left, I guess. He's there who still does have one, so those lights are going to shine bright and hopefully get him out of there.
All right, let's go to part 2 really quick of your kind of what you were popping for, and you said you worked yourself up into a shoot about this, going into the other league here, AEW. You've worked yourself and you've convinced yourself into MJF coming back.
Yep.
I am so not there. I am nowhere near where you are. I was going to say, nowhere near. I was going to say that what I'm popping for this week is Mox versus Punk.
Sure.
I have no idea why they're doing it next week on Dynamite. I'm assuming, I know you're assuming that there's a setup for MJF at the pay-per-view.
Something.
I'm assuming that they're gonna something's gonna happen. They may not even wrestle next week. I'm gonna figure this thing out, and you lead into the pay-per-view. I think the pay-per-view is going to be Mox versus Punk. But tell me how you convince yourself that MJF is coming back. And are you popping for Mox versus Punk?
I am definitely popping for Mox versus Punk. I was popping for it for the pay-per-view. Yesterday really threw, I haven't done a lot of digging around, and I probably won't do a lot of digging around to find rumors and reasons why they changed it on the fly. I'm sure it's probably out there. But I find that interesting that, if the storyline of what I watched last night was kind of, hey, we don't need to wait till the pay-per-view. We both slung some personal insults at each other yesterday. Let's get it on. And you get that all the time. And then you have a pay-per-view. Within half an hour, it was, hey, guess what? We're having it next week on Dynamite. That felt like a panicky move that Vince would do. It probably isn't. And there may be an explanation out there, but why would they move probably one of the biggest matches they've had in their company?
It's the biggest match. It's the biggest match that they've had,
probably
2022, right?
This year for sure. But
I think this is the biggest match they might have had. This is a good question. Is this the biggest match that AEW's had all time?
I don't think so.
To date.
Now, I'd say I don't think so because I'd have to. This is a 3-year-old company now. There were some Cody matches. There were some Cody matches early on. There were some Omega matches early on. There's a Jericho mop. I don't. It feels like it, but I bet it's in the top 4. But there may have been 1 or 2 others. That Cody Rhodes Brody Lee match might have had some significance.
No, that's not bigger than Punk Mox. No.
Anyway, yeah, but it is up there. It's a top 5, or maybe it's number 1. So why is it on next week instead of the pay-per-view that they had advertised it for?
Right. We can't. That's what we got to figure out. We
and
have
that's
to figure
why.
Out.
That's exactly how I worked myself into. Okay, it's gonna be a non-finish next week. They won't do it, but how and why? Will they just brawl out of the arena?
Yeah.
I guess, and just a count out. That doesn't feel quite as exciting to have. It doesn't match this sort of real swerve of changing it to free TV.
I don't know. I mean, I
Yeah.
really don't get it. I don't know why they're doing it this way. I haven't
If
figured out.
anyone's watching live and wants to respond and let us know,
Yeah.
WCWF Pod on Twitter, let us know what you think.
But I think they're up to something. I think they're up to something big. I just do not believe that MJF is anywhere in the picture right now.
Okay.
This is my thought. My thought is MJF and Tony Khan and those guys are so far away from kind of figuring out his long-term contract that he is not there. Like I
I
just
don't
think that
know.
that's where I am on this.
Okay.
I don't think that they are there, and I don't think he's coming back. I don't think he's coming back for the pay-per-view or any of that stuff. Now, the interesting thing that happened on Dynamite last night that why ever, nobody knows why, is that CM Punk went off script apparently and called out Adam Hangman Page when we knew Hangman wasn't in the building, and kind of insulted him. People on the dirt sheets are saying that insult was payback from something Hangman said while Punk was out, and Punk didn't like it, and they don't necessarily get along. They don't like each other. But all of that doesn't make any sense. It's kind of like Punk being Punk. And if that's the case, there's a chance that Punk could start to be the old Punk of wearing himself thin in the locker room with wearing himself thin with leadership, if you will. There's all of these things about Punk, but I'm excited for Mox versus Punk. I think it was the biggest match that AEW could possibly make. I like the way that Mox is a little bit dismissive of the title versus title thing. We don't need these belts. We should just go at it. I just like the setup. You know what I mean? They're setting it up for Mox to be this guy that just comes out, takes on the next challenger, wants to brawl. Let's get it on. Punk is obviously taking on a little bit more of a heelish role and saying this belt means a lot to me. You know what I mean? So I'm with you. I don't understand what the angle is, but I do think it's a big deal. I think it's a big match, and I don't know why they're putting it on TV. It doesn't make any sense yet. I got to figure it out.
I read the reports this morning about the opening of that promo being shots at Hangman, and that it wasn't no one in AEW knew. I think it's all the work, brother.
You think it's all work?
I think it's all work. I think they're going to do a Punk heel turn because somewhere down the road I expect an MJF return face run and somehow. But yeah, this is like I said to somebody on Twitter earlier today about something else entirely. This is pro wrestling 101. Blurring the lines. There are good guys and bad guys. These guys in the back, I don't know why I believe this. Just same way you believe, same way you believe the opposite. I don't know how much Punk ever wore himself thin in a locker room. I do believe he wore himself thin.
I think he did.
I don't know. I mean, if you ask in a lot of interviews, you don't hear too many people burying Punk. I think him and Hangman are probably just fine. I think this is all work.
I love it.
I say that because,
I love it.
I say that because I've watched for 35 years and I've seen a variation of this, and rarely is it truly
heat
a shoot. Rarely is it really, you hear about teammates in other sports having conflicts with each other. There are rivalries in individual sports. Pro wrestling, this is a team sport. And while there have been, I'm sure, lots of rivalries, and there are historic ones, I think in this day and age, these guys don't, because kayfabe is sort of done with now. These are all, I think, these sort of one team guys. Let's all do this for each other. I may be completely naive, and if I am, great. And if I'm proven wrong, and there's real heat, and it gets out of hand, and that's also part of this crazy carny business that I love. Also, that these knuckleheads can't operate a legitimate business without blowing themselves up for real, like they're doing. So anyway, if that's the case too, I love it for that reason. Also,
all right, let's go.
Not knowing is what makes it great.
let's go off script for a second because I've pulled up some of the quote unquote biggest and best matches in the history of AEW.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna ask you, is Mox versus Punk for this kind of title versus title a bigger match than some of these following matches? Like, and I'm not saying best match, like, but is it a bigger match, like a bigger
right?
promo?
Moxley and Punk hasn't happened yet, so we can't on a level compare it to what we're about to hear because those have taken place. We know about those.
Yeah, but I'm just gonna ask you, are they bigger?
Yeah. Okay, let's hear it.
First one, which could be some of the biggest ever. Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, AEW Grand Slam in New York City. That took place September 22nd, 2001. How big of a match would that be leading into it? Omega versus Danielson. I think it's Danielson's first match.
It was Danielson's first match. That had huge hype coming in because was Omega champion at the time? Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. Those are two widely considered the two best wrestlers on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, that I would have is
Mox Punk bigger than Danielson Omega?
Yeah, it is.
Then if that's the case, I don't even think we have to go through the rest of these, but I will.
What's the rest of them?
Adam Hangman Page versus Danielson. AEW Winter is coming. 1 or 2. I think 1 was bigger than 2, right?
I don't think Bryan Danielson has the biggest match in company history.
Okay. That makes this easier.
Okay.
I got some more to go through, and I love it. Now, I don't think this, but you might like this one. Jon Moxley versus Brody Lee, Double or Nothing, May 23rd, 2020.
I don't remember exactly that match, but what the Brody Lee leading the Dark Order.
Yes.
I like to know how long that was before Brody went off television and then subsequently passed away. Brody's legacy in the relatively brief time he spent in AEW, happened at a really important moment in that company's history. So I think some of those bigger matches, if there are AEW wrestling purists yet, because it's only a 3-year company, I think they would give some credence to some Brody Lee matches. So I'm willing to say that one might be the hype for it, though. It doesn't sound like it doesn't. It doesn't.
And here's the thing, and I think this happens, and rightfully so. God bless the dead. But I think in death, these things become hindsight and bigger, right? So, like, for example, Eddie Guerrero is a bigger wrestler today than Eddie Guerrero ever was when he was wrestling.
Definitely. So for this exercise, let me just say, I think when I think about the big matches AEW has had, when I think about the biggest ones there were, Punk Moxley definitely there is either Mox Jericho.
That's what I was getting at. That's the only. I think that's the only other one.
Or there's a Jericho Cody, or there's a not the Mox Omega barbed wire that.
It's got to be. I think it's the only thing I think that comes close in regards to hype and build up. This is the biggest match we could make. Was Jon Moxley's first pay-per-view for the title? It was Moxley Jericho. I think it was. It was Moxley's first real match, right? Because he debuts at Double or Nothing and Paradigm Shifts Jericho, but that wasn't a match. That was just Moxley's here. Moxley's first match, I believe, was a Jericho match. It might have been at Revolution, but I think that was Jericho Moxley. Let's get it on. And for the record, just so we know, just to talk about this, the ratings for Jericho Moxley last week, not this last episode this week, but last week was something at the lake?
Quake by the Lake.
Yeah.
Minnesota.
Apparently did numbers. Moxley Jericho did way more numbers than anything that they did this week. and it was a
Well,
big deal.
there if there is a rationale behind, you're going to get X number of people have either already bought the pay-per-view. You still have time after next week to hype up something like a Punk Moxley that can draw probably not a whole lot. You're not going to. How many pay-per-views are they going to not get by putting this on TV next week versus
No, you just get
the
more. You're gonna get more.
whether there's some advantage to having it?
No, you're gonna get more.
If
Because
television if television ratings are important enough where they think this might actually, if they can beat something next week that make it, if that's the rationale behind it, then that's just a business move. And sure, okay, but maybe that's all it is they're trying to capitalize and get 2 straight weeks of their highest ratings ever. Is that going to mean something going into the fall season? Like there could be.
I think this is
reasons
just a
behind
set.
it.
I'm still thinking it's a setup. You're setting up the pay per view. You hype this up, try to get some eyes on it, right? Some tomfoolery takes place, right? And then you lead them into the pay per view. Is what I'm thinking.
It's not
They might even get in the ring.
It's not going to be Tom. It's not going to be Tom. It's going to be Maxwell. That's what's going to be it.
Well, let's talk about last night's Dynamite and some of the other things that took place, because there was a lot that happened for fans like us that actually like the stuff that happens in the ring, and there's a lot of dirt sheet fodder that happened last night as well. We already talked about some of the CM Punk Hangman stuff. Let's start with how AEW started match wise. 2 out of 3 falls. Daniel Garcia versus Bryan Danielson. Truly a purist type, fan match, right?
Yep.
This is a Ring of Honor type wrestling match. This was 2 out of 3 falls, and it really, I think, put Daniel Garcia at a whole nother level with inside the company.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you think of Daniel Garcia? What'd you think of Bryan Danielson coming back? Like, what'd you think of that, like, putting them two together?
With Daniel Bryanson, I'm kind of how you are with Alex Smith. Like, I worry about Bryan Danielson a lot. If I was his spouse, I would ask him to stop wrestling. But he's still a top 10 in the world, probably top 5 in the world, even maybe. Daniel Garcia is establishing himself. AEW for their entire run have had a lot of guys that you could sort of fit interchange. Your Lee Moriarty's, Dante Martin's, Jungle Boy's, Sammy Guevara's, Darby Allin's, and and a lot of them have had a higher name recognition than Daniel Garcia. But whether it's executives, coaches, other wrestlers, and himself, he has established himself, and he's getting put into this as probably the next member of Blackpool Combat Club, joining this, getting linked up with Jericho for a while. He is doing things that his contemporaries about the same style, body weight, and ability who can do. He's getting pushed up a level. Good for him. He definitely deserves it. And let's see if he can make the most of this opportunity.
Great for him. I think he's phenomenal. I think he does a really good job, and I like the turn if he goes to Blackpool. I actually liked Garcia there more than Wheeler Yuta. So I thought the Daniel Garcia's, I thought the Lee Moriarty's fit, and then Wheeler got this big push, and I think it worked out for Yuta. He's a fan favorite now.
Yeah.
Ring of Honor champion, right? Pure champion. But I do think Garcia is a great fit for them. I think he did what he needed to do with JAS, and I think this is the next step. And he also is a workhorse in the Indies. Does a lot of really, really good stuff in the Indies and has a really great reputation in the Indies as well. I want him to get a little bit better on the mic. I think his mic work and his mic work still leaves a little bit to be desired.
A lot of those guys do, just because a lot of these guys have never wrestled for another promotion where they've done a copious amount of interviews and certainly TV time. So a lot of these guys are, if you listen to Jungle Boy Jack Perry yesterday, he's not great on the mic,
No.
They could all use work.
But I like Garcia. I like what they're doing with him.
Plus, it was a great match. Great match.
It's a great
Great,
match.
great in ring
He can go.
storytelling.
He can go. But I
Oh
don't think
yeah.
that's the question of all the people that you mentioned. I think all of them can go. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the young talent over at AEW is really really exciting. And I think, like you were saying, the problem is they've got too much talent because those young guys have to like go over. You're not going over on Miro or Malachi, or you're not going. You know what I mean? You're not going over on those guys right now.
Yep.
The fact that Bryan Danielson has enough respect for Garcia to even kind of allow the Garcia wins the biggest match of his life through all kinds of shenanigans. Like that helps elevate Garcia, right? Getting a fall, getting one out of the three falls legitimately. And
Yep.
I was thinking about this, and I was going to ask you about it. I love what they're doing now. AEW does this a lot, if you notice. No one really taps. They just like go out,
They just
and the
pass out.
refs like,
Right.
and the refs like it's over. So they'll say, "Oh, I never tapped," but like the
Mm-hmm.
refs like it's over, it's over.
Yeah,
But yeah, I love
Daniel
it.
Bryan has the gravitas and the clout that he could easily be in a feud with House of Black or Mir
Sure,
or another just well known named guy.
sure.
You know, Orange Cat, anyone who's already got a name and a fan base. Daniel Garcia doesn't have one outside the Indies. Now he does.
Name sounds great.
Getting that rub from from Bryan Danielson is what every guy in his position wants. Get that chance. I hope a lot of them will get that chance in the next couple of years, and this is gonna be Daniels, and he will do it, or like Paige Van Zant, it'll be whoop, not yet. Let's get them the hell off television and just forget they existed. They were pushing the hell out of that for a long time too.
They
So
were. They thought they thought they had a Rousey counter, right?
that's the business, and it's the guys who like Garcia, if they can make it work, are the ones who float to the top.
Let's talk about the other side of the business, especially in AEW that happened last night. The other thing that the dirt sheets are clamoring about and going crazy is the Varsity Blondes went to the internet to express their frustration with last night. They were squashed by the Gun Club.
They sure were.
In 2 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Pillman Jr. didn't even get in the ring. Griff Garrison gets worked over just so they could move him out of the way for the storyline of the Gun Club turning on their dad and the Acclaim running out. That was the piece. It had absolutely nothing to do with the Varsity Blondes, but the Varsity Blondes got used so they could do this segment, and it was awful for them. Yep. And they went to the internet and said, we're very just frustrated. We don't know what to do here. And so the question is, because like outside of Pillman Jr.'s name and obviously what his dad did, Flying Brian, Griff Garrison's been there. They did say something along the lines of they hate to see, wrestlers that kind of held down the company of the pandemic treated this way. Legitimate gripe for the Varsity Blondes, or hey, look, you just gotta wait your turn or move out of the way.
It's like, well, we don't know what the true answer is, but it literally is only one of three things. They took their gripes about their employer to the internet, which is not a smart move if you just do that on the surface.
Right.
Professional wrestling, storyline wise, is using social media, using these guys' social medias to further some plot lines, I believe, because that can blur the line terrifically. So it could be long-term storytelling that they're going to join Julia in the House of Black because they're being mistreated. It could be a work.
House of Black doesn't want them.
It could be a work. But
House of Black's too good for that.
Here's what I'm saying, and I said it many weeks ago. I sort of repeated it a few times. If this is a mishandling of his company, what is Tony Khan? Is Tony Khan surrounding himself with the best people to be able to put out the best product with, I think, the best talent that he's had so far?
Hey,
does this fall on Tony, or is there another reason?
Now, my read is this. They've got too much talent. Somebody's got to lose. Somebody has to get squashed. Varsity Blondes, to me, of all the people they have in AEW that I would like to see pushed, Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. are not anywhere on that list. Brian Pillman had a shot. Didn't he wrestle Mox in Cincinnati or something like that? He did wrestle with Mox. They were tag team partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
In his hometown of Cincinnati. That was like the biggest push he's ever had.
Pillman was
But,
on Ric Flair's card also.
yeah, like, dude, you're not. To me, those guys aren't there yet. So I mean, somebody has to be on the other side of these things.
Yep.
And hey, look, they're young; they'll be fine in the long run, hopefully.
So if
But
you're,
I can't do
taking your gripes, unchecked to Twitter, how is that going to benefit them?
I don't think it benefits them, but I don't even think AEW cares. Like, I don't think Tony Khan's looking at Griff Garrison's, like, because they didn't like say like screw it. He just like frustrated, whatever. You can be frustrated. You're 12.
Right. Yes, Tony or whoever. There are a lot of bigger things to worry about than those guys' as delicate sensibilities. Although I like both of them just fine.
They do nothing for me right now. Nothing. Now, I'll tell you who does do something for me, and I don't know where we go from here, because the main event last night was Young Bucks, the Triumph of the Return of Kenny Omega, who kind of looks kind of shaky in there.
A little rusty.
Versus who I love. What do they call it? La Faction or something? It's amazing. It was Roosh, Dragon Lee, Andrade El Idolo. I love them. I wanted them to go over so bad last night. They did not. What did we do? Like, one, what did you think of the match? Like, okay, I will say this. You know my love for the Lucha Brothers. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
To me, the Lucha Brothers can do no wrong. I'm starting to feel the same way about Andrade, Roosh, and Dragon Lee was great. Dragon Lee had great spots last night.
Except he was assaulted afterwards.
But
that's all right.
You know what I think though? Can I all right, we're doing it. We might as well do it now, and I'll give you my honest breakdown of why I think what happened last night.
Okay.
Dragon Lee is not going to stay in AEW. He's going to be New Japan. He's going to be AAA. He's not going to be an AEW commodity.
Correct.
So therefore, you can't run him through the tournament and put the belts on him, right?
Right.
So that Dragon Lee's gone. He's going to be going away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why what happened happened, even though it was an amazing it's an amazing first round match. That match should never have happened in the first round. It's a great, amazing match.
Right.
But I think that's what happens. But to me, I will say, who did they take on? Was it last week or the week before as a tag team? They beat someone that was really good. They beat the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah, is that what it was? Yeah.
It was Lucha Brothers versus Roosh and Andrade, and they beat the Lucha Brothers. I love them. Man, I love them. Man. I love them in the ring. Roosh took on Moxley. I love them. I love those guys. They're fantastic.
Should Roosh have won?
No.
With the way they're pushing them, you can't not have the Bucks. The Bucks and Omega. You're not going to have 3 executive producers. Are not going to lose in the first round.
My thing was you could have like Moxley not all the way back, like something with his shoulder. He was wearing the brace. Something with the knee.
Yeah, I mean,
but I was like, why are they doing this to me? It's such a great match.
I know Andrade and Roosh. I hopefully will get into the tag team scene. That'd be
FTR. I want to take on FTR.
Yeah,
I would love to see them wrestle FTR.
I think that could be down the road. My take on the match. They have made incredible spectacles of big debuts and big returns. This, I'm not trashing it because it was Charleston, West Virginia, but like, wow, how lucky is Charleston, West Virginia to get that kind of return? Like,
super lucky.
I was happy for those fans, but like,
that's funny.
That felt it felt like a bigger. He feels like a bigger talent to come back after. I mean,
they treated Charleston really well.
Absolutely.
They treated Charleston really well.
Charleston
got some big matches. Charleston's got Rampage.
City.
They've got Rampage tomorrow too, so they got some big matches.
Absolutely. That's a probably a wrestling town. But it felt a little. When I think of Kenny Omega coming back after what he did right before he left, having wearing all those titles.
All of them.
Yeah, and then after
probably
losing,
the best Kenny Omega we'd seen before he went out. Like Hill Kitty, all the belts. Like, love to hate him. Love to hate him.
You
And
knew,
he was doing great matches.
even before the Bucks got this little face turn, you knew it had been so long and he's such a big star. He was coming back as a face. He wasn't going to come back as that heel that he left as. There was no way that was going to happen.
I don't know. I loved it.
I loved it too. I just knew it wasn't going to happen. Kenny can be a great babyface also. It felt a little underwhelming, even though it was a fantastic match, and I enjoyed it. Seeing Kenny a little rusty, always makes you wonder.
That was what made it bad. Kenny was shaky.
Yeah.
The Bucks were hitting on all cylinders. The other guys were hitting on all cylinders. It was Kenny. Kenny was the problem.
He undoubtedly has ring rust, and I guess how else do you get off ring rust without just getting in there and doing it? If they're bound for the finals, which I believe they are, although we have weeks before I guess this tournament ends. But here's my question to you: what team do you think is in because Cole, O'Reilly, and Fish were not cleared?
Let's do that. Let's do that, and let's do it the right way, because let's break it down, my man. There are 2 matches, right? That's the thing about this that's so awesome. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total teams, right? 8 total teams.
Okay.
They're total teams.
Yeah.
There are 2 matches on one side, 2 matches on the other side. Let's just be clear. These matches, outside of one, which we'll get to, is very obvious as an outliner, that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
They're awesome. It's not even like they are awesome. So the idea that Fish and who is it? Fish,
O'Reilly,
and who?
Cole, Adam Cole.
Yeah. Where were they going to be? I'll tell you exactly where they're going to be. Looking at these brackets, it's very easy to see. There is a Trust Busters Best Friends match that sucks.
but Best Friends are a very popular faction.
No, Trust Busters. Ari Daivari, Slim J, and the other guy who just showed up on Dark. They would never. Yeah, they would have never been in. They would have never been in this tournament. Look, let's break it down. You're
probably right.
I think I'm 100% right. And also because if you notice on Dark and then on Dynamite, they had to add Trust Busters sections that didn't even seem like they made any sense.
I better give full disclosure right now. Parker Boudreaux follows me on Twitter. I follow Parker Boudreaux. I'm a fan. I like that guy.
I don't have a problem with Parker Boudreaux. I'm just saying, out of nowhere, they get a match on Dark. Ari Daivari shows up. Slim J. They get a match on Dark. Parker Boudreaux's on the same episode of Dark. Tony Schiavone interviews them in the ring afterwards. Then they show up on Dynamite. I think they talk again. Like Ari Daivari's doing a match, right? With Orange Cassidy. But he gets the mic beforehand and starts talking trash to telling Orange Cassidy to join the Trust But all of this is just last minute. Let's move them up to put them in the tournament, right? So my thing is get them out of there early. And then you have and again, let's look at the other. So if we're looking at this, Elliot, like a real sports bracket, right? What do you do in any tournament known to man? You put the number 1 seed versus the last place seed.
Yep.
And then you work your way in between, right? If it's 1, 8, 2, 7, you know what I mean? So let's just take a look at what AEW has done, which I think is hilarious. They had Young Bucks and Kenny Omega take on Andrade, Dragon Lee, and Roos. Both of those teams, in my mind, would be ranked higher than both Best Friends and Trust Busters, right? Without a doubt. Let's look at what else we have, though. This is very important. Death Triangle this week versus Aussie Open. Will Ospreay and Aussie Open, right? That's an amazing match. That is an awesome match.
It's gonna be an amazing match,
right? Then listen to this: House of Black versus Dark Order with Adam Hangman Page, right? Or no, Hangman's rooting for Dark Order, right?
Right.
How awesome is that match? So you can tell the Trust Busters and Best Friends don't. You know what I mean? That match is a matchup. So let me ask this. Let me do this. and then we'll move into the who we think's going to win, because I do like this. I think it's really good. But I want you to rank the 8 teams. I'm going to give them to you again, and I want, if you are setting the seeds, who's going to be the number 1 seed versus who's the 8 seed?
Well, let's just get this. Trustbusters 8 seed.
Yes, we know Trustbusters are 8. Would you say Best Friends or Dark Order is 7?
I'd say without Adam Page, Dark Order is 7.
Okay, so this is let's. I don't know if we're writing this down. Trustbusters 8.
Yeah.
Dark Order 7.
Best Friends 6.
Best Friends 6. This is where it gets tough, but hear me out here. I'm gonna go Will Ospreay Aussie Open 5.
Sure.
Then what do we? Then what do we do?
Then
Andrade
and Roosh and Dragon Lee
at 4.
And then Death. Dark. What is it? Who's Pac and what are they called? Death
Triangle.
Death Triangle. Then Death Triangle.
I would argue there to put House of Black, put Death Triangle at 2. But I'm with. I see what you're going.
Yeah, somewhat interchangeable.
Both Lucha Brothers and Pac have held titles a lot in AEW.
Right.
House of Black has not, in the sense of.
Okay, you can put House of Black 3 for sure.
Death Triangle 2, Bucks, Kenny Omega 1.
Death Triangle 2. I don't see a Death Triangle versus Bucks and Omega finals at all.
Right, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We're just gonna you got to rank.
Right. I think those are the rankings as far as overall team. If you were
if I'm ranking it, you got to rank. I think you got to rank them. I mean, the only thing I think is you could maybe flip House of Black and Death Triangle.
Yeah.
But the gold standard, Lucha Brothers held the tag titles a couple times. I think Pac's held some belts a couple times. Right now, Malachi, Brody, and Buddy have not. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So now, when we say that, let's quickly, because we are running short on time. I love this AEW discussion for this episode. Who do you think wins Death Triangle, Ospreay, Aussie Open?
I think Death Triangle wins.
So that puts Death Triangle versus Young Bucks and Omega. Hold that thought. House of Black over Dark Order. We agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Best Friends over Trustbusters. We agree with that.
No, Trustbusters. I'm going to say Trustbusters in a moment.
You're crazy.
You're bringing them out of nowhere.
Crazy. You're a madman. You are a madman.
Parker Boudreaux is gonna run through that.
We've got to write this down. All right, so we strongly disagree.
Okay.
I have best friends. I have Best Friends losing to House of Black. House of Black goes to the championship from that side.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is tough. Bucks Omega versus Death Triangle. It's going to be an amazing match.
Yep.
I think you go with the executives there. I go with the elite.
Right.
Omega, Young Bucks, House of Black for the championship. I'm going to choose House of Black to be the first championship.
I'm going to choose House of Black also. Okay. Only because, the Bucks and Omega, those guys have such hard-ons for trios, titles, and stuff in Japan that they obviously want to hold those belts at some point, and they will. Hopefully they have some sense of selves. We're like, let's not just book ourselves to win this that we've talked about since we probably started this company that we eventually did this. So, but yeah, House of Black has been a trio that has been ready.
And they need belts. They need belts. They're so good. They need belts.
Correct.
That's how fun. Elliot, how fun is that? How fun is that tournament?
But I'm almost looking forward to House of Black versus Death Triangle, House of Black versus going forward. I didn't think I'd enjoy trio titles as much as I think I'm going to.
I'm going to enjoy everything except for your upstart Trustbusters upset.
You watch. I think for some reason they want to do something with Daivari and Boudreaux is a person that you can look at. He didn't perform very well in NXT. He didn't have a ton of opportunities. He was booked kind of as just muscle.
Yeah, and it was Joe Gacy's Harlan muscle. Like it was like a conservative American skinhead type booking. I didn't like it. I didn't like the storyline. But
he's actually like on Twitter. He's actually like a really nice guy that interacts with his fans. He's got a lot of fashion sense. He hangs out with hip hop guys. So like,
it was insane. That was just the booking
now. He's on Cameo now, and he sounds just like soft and sweet. So like I'm kind of a Parker Boudreaux fan, and
you're showing it. It shows.
I'm a mark for him. Yeah, no doubt
It
about it.
shows. Hey, look, we got a mark for someone. We all do. Elliot, it is getting to the 9 o'clock hour. Let me ask you, as we move forward, and I like the way that you're talking a little bit about fantasy booking. Let's still like we went AEW heavy. Let's stick with it for a little bit longer for now. Fast forward outside of MJF,
Okay,
the MJF return that you've worked yourself up.
I'm able to do that. Yeah.
What do you want to see fantasy booking wise as we go to the AEW pay per view? If there was like a weird turn or a surprise turn, what would you want to see?
I'm resigned to the fact. I think I'm resigned to the fact that we probably won't see too much New Japan involvement. Maybe not until again next spring when there's might be another Forbidden Door. I think Jay White would fit in so well.
So good.
AEW.
But he really is like running the company.
He really is. So, and the same kind of goes for Will Ospreay. What I would love to see a prolonged Will Ospreay Kenny Omega feud. I think that instead of getting that, what I think we're gonna get is a Kenny Omega Adam Cole feud.
I don't want to see that.
Which I don't want to see it either. But that thing has some history to it. You know,
but so does Ospreay. Ospreay and Omega, right? They have
it's just gonna be. I don't think it's practical. I think like Jay White. I think Ospreay is just sort of. I don't think he's interested in traveling the U.S. for AEW. He is more than content, it seems, being over there. But I would prefer that him or Jay White. You know, Adam Cole is there when he's cleared. He is going to be a commodity that they're going to exploit because and he doesn't fit in. I don't think he nor Omega fit in with the right now at least fit in with the Mox Punk. I think it's like that's gonna be A and B and should stay A and B for a while, but it's not gonna stay for that long because they all need to be intertwined.
Because you brought up Adam Cole, quick question for you: does the Adam Cole of the world, the Swerves of the world, any of those guys have any twinge of regret or buyer's remorse now that Vince is out?
Yeah. Yeah.
You answered too fast. I think. Well, I don't think Claudio does, because Claudio got everything. He was main roster.
He got everything out of that company he needed to get.
Yeah.
Adam Cole looked like he was going to potentially be a WrestleMania main eventer within a couple of years. He was on that trajectory. Yeah, absolutely. I think they do.
Who's most likely to go back?
I don't know. So did you see a report that there was sources said that a very prominent AEW wrestler approached company management and said that they have had people reach out to him from the WWE inquiring about his interest? I'm not sure it even happened. I believe it, but if it did happen, I think it would be someone like maybe a Adam Cole or I'm trying to think of who else.
My read is it would be Cole, Fish, or O'Reilly. Those are the only ones.
I'm not sure Fish or O'Reilly are significant enough to be even put into that conversation. Like
O'Reilly was getting some main event NXT love before, Before.
I don't think it was.
But I don't think it. Like you said, I don't think it's Claudio. I don't think it's Danielson. I don't think it's Mox. I don't think it's Mox.
Could have been Danielson, but I doubt it. But yeah, it probably was Cole if it happened.
We talk about this. Don't tell Megan, but I do know that Ricky Starks and Cody Rhodes are very close. Very close. I'm thinking Ricky. Ricky might be one of the guys that.
I got called out by Megan, and she can call me out for anything she wants to call me out for, because that's how much love I have for her. Right. Of going a heel turn, booking all these stars who should leave AEW when their contract's up or wherever and go to WWE. I say that only because I want to clear some of the clutter out of the promotion that I prefer. I prefer AEW over WWE. So I just want to see a little clutter cleared out. Plus, there's some talent. I also want to elevate WWE also. I want both companies to be ethical and perform well. And if WWE is going to make that ethical turn, then I want them to have talent to be good. So yeah, people like Ricky Starks, the Gun Club, those are all, quite honestly, Private Party.
Leave Private Party alone. Leave them where they are. I think they're great. I think they're going to be my favorites.
The Acclaimed. These are all guys.
Leave them in AEW.
Well, they're not going to sniff gold, but yes. Anyway,
let's quickly talk. There was a big announcement and I don't have this station on my home. I don't have it, but it's AXS TV, which I think is Axis.
Mm-hmm.
Announced New Japan programming. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, well, they've had it,
but they've announced big, like pre-recorded. So it was this. They're leading it off with what they called Music City Mayhem that was recorded in July 30th, but that was John Moxley versus El Desperado.
Right.
They're coming with both the G1 climaxes from Japan. They've just got some amazing shows. I think it's 6 of them that are just big time New Japan shows that they're going to run on Axis.
So the G1 climax just concluded. Do we want to break all that or talk about it at all, or save that for next week, or announce the winner, or? I got the entire card right here.
The world knows. I don't know as much about what was the final? Was it Okada versus
Ospreay?
Yeah. All right. Did you see the match?
Not yet.
Okay, so let's hold it. It's 9:10. Okay. We've been going for an hour and 6 minutes. We always go long. Let's close with a couple of some quick. Is there anything on any other promotion? Because we do an AEW heavy in honor of Megan.
Mm-hmm.
Anything in any other promotion we want to talk about right now? Because I will tell you, I popped out of my seat for the Elias photo, of the Elias family photo of Ezekiel in the hospital, Elias and the dad and all that. I just think, like you were saying, Kevin Owens is going to be, like, if they let Kevin Owens go, if they run with this Ezekiel thing, whenever, that was my big WWE takeaway right now, was the Ezekiel photo.
You know how I said earlier in the show that when done right, invasion angles are some of my favorite things. Comedy spots like that are like the opposite. I don't hate it.
Oh, you don't love them? Oh,
I don't love it. I find there's a lot of stuff in wrestling that is juvenile and sophomoric that I love. So when I think when something feels juvenile and sophomoric to me in wrestling, I really just kind of like, I don't mind it. I don't need it personally.
This is where I need Tom. This is where I need Tom. This is where I need Tom. This is where we need TG, because TG and I we love the sophomoric. We think it's hilarious.
I love sophomoric stuff too. Obviously, I'm a fan of wrestling. This one just does. This one just maybe as a fan of comedy, not as a fan of wrestling. It doesn't really. Maybe that's what it's got to be. It's got to be as a fan of comedy, and as I fancy myself somewhat of a comedian. That doesn't make me laugh all that much. Anyway, I like it though. I like Elias. I like that character. I like his guy. I see where they're going with it, but like, did you like the angle when Hornswoggle was McMahon's son?
No, that's too far. I didn't even watch the NBA.
That's what it kind of makes me feel like a little bit. Anyway.
All right. Well, I like it. I do love I like what they're doing with Bobby Lashley. They're really elevating that title. They had him in the ring with AJ Styles. Anybody in the ring with AJ Styles looks good. Anyone in the ring with Dolph Ziggler looks good. That's what they're doing with Theory.
Is this a Triple H thing? Is Dolph getting a nice rub?
I don't know, because it seems like Dolph is always there in the mix. Mm-hmm. Hey, trivia question for you before we go. Let's before we finish, let's wrap this thing up. During Punk's monologue, in the ring with the mic by himself, he said that he alluded to Eddie Kingston being the 3rd best Eddie that he wrestled.
No, I thought he said second best Kingston.
Second best Kingston, which was Kofi.
But he said
third best Eddie. So Guerrero, and then who's the other Eddie?
I think is Is it that guy Eddie Edwards?
I don't
That
know. He said it was
he's
the
in,
third best Eddie. Second best Kingston, which we got Kofi. Third best Eddie. Guerrero, and there's got to be another Eddie somewhere.
I bet he's talking about like maybe his battles with that guy Eddie Edwards in ROH.
Maybe. All right, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't. I'll look into it a little further. Maybe have an answer for next week, or I'll find. Yeah, I mean, yeah. When I heard that, I thought Eddie Edwards just because that's the next wrestler's name that came to mind. But I'd be curious if Punk elaborates on that.
All right, match that we need to watch.
Yeah.
Ellie.
So something that was said yesterday during the main event last night. I guess Jim Ross might have said it that Kenny Omega and Andrade they said they have a lot of history, or he said they have had some history. And when I heard that, I was like, they do? Andrade's been in like NXT and WWE for a few years. Was Andrade ever in Japan? I was not particularly aware immediately of like, did they actually have history? So I did a little searching, and it turns out just last year, this may be all he was referring to, just last year when Omega faced Andrade in Triple Mania 29. In AAA at Triple Mania 29, when he was AAA champion, they put on a 32-minute banger. Ric Flair escorted Andrade out in the ring. That's my match. That's a match of the week. If you're a fan of Andrade and a fan of Omega, if you like peanut butter and chocolate but hadn't seen the two together to make Reese's Pieces, go back and watch these two together. They really tore the house down there
on the show.
Last year. So that's my match of the week recommendation. Andrade, Kenny Omega, two stars who I hope will see each other plenty more in AEW, but last year they put on a show for fans at Triple Mania 29.
I agree 100%. I remember when that show happened, it was a big deal that Flair walked him out, but it was also a lot of AEW guys in that, and that Lucha Brothers were in that event. It was huge. I just remember it being an awesome thing.
Once I saw that, I was reminded of that, but you know, I was hoping like, oh, I didn't know Andrade and Omega faced off in Budokan Hall 4 years ago. Like that's the match I would have liked to have recommended, but nope. It's still great though. That's my recommendation. We will post it to WCWF Pod on Twitter.
All right, and then Elliot, as we close this out, is there a face of the week outside of wrestling? Anything that makes you feel good this week?
Absolutely. And you're gonna think I'm sucking up here, but Megan is my face of the week.
You are sucking up, but I accept it.
Yeah,
I accept it.
Our third host, who
I
am so inspired by her commitment to herself and her education doing this PhD program. She is going to be with us regularly. She'll be here next week. Little schedule conflict today, but what she's doing is fantastic for herself, for her family, for her, and what she's gives her community is amazing. So Megan is always my face of the week, and tonight she gets a special shout out.
Shout out to Heels. That's a great one. I will be very short because I did 30 minutes on our experience at NASCAR on a solo podcast that will be posted on the Cheats Movement. You can see it on our Facebook and social media pages. But I will just say how pleasantly pleased, sort of surprised about the overwhelming hospitality of Richmond International Raceway and the folks at the NASCAR race on Sunday. My 7-year-old had a blast, and it was something as a person in my 40s had apprehension. I had apprehension of going. Like I said, I don't think I would have went 10 years ago. Probably wouldn't have gone 5 years ago, but I wanted to take the little man. I wanted to root for Bubba Wallace, and it was a phenomenal experience for him, and it was a really fun experience for me as well. So shout out to all of the wonderful people at Richmond National Raceway over the weekend and on Sunday, and thanks for treating my son and me so well. So on that note, they are my face. Elliot, it's been real. We're going to count this thing out. 1, 2, 3. Until next time.